Welcome back to the Converge stage, ladies and gentlemen. We are on day number 1 of Switch 2025, and we're really thrilled and excited to have all of you joining us today. Now, our next panel will be tackling the biggest technological shift in the recent years with the title Gen AI in Practice, Promise versus Pitfalls. And I personally think it's going to be a very engaging and exciting and also a very relevant topic of discussion. So this next panel is powered by Ngee Polytechnic, and this session cuts through the hype of generative AI and brings together leaders from startups, government, and the wider innovation ecosystem to give you practical insights and real-world stories on how humans can effectively and responsibly co-pilot alongside these powerful new machines. Leading the conversation today, please join me to welcome our moderator, Sing Chiu, Senior Manager at Agile Ngee Polytechnic. Joining Sing on stage, we have our esteemed panelists today. Fu Zhikang, Director, Senior IP Strategist of iPods International. Ang Pan Yong, Chief Innovation Officer from the Home Team Science and Technology Agency. Zhang Tao, Co-founder and CPO of Manus AI. Passing the time over to you, Sing. Take it away.
Right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for the next 40 minutes. Unfortunately, we are not going to have Q&A today, but the speakers will be hanging around, so feel free to approach them for any questions you may have after this. So, yeah, just a little quick briefing of the next 40 minutes. We're going to have the first segment where we will have individual questions to maybe dive a little deeper into their area of expertise. And then the next maybe 30 minutes or so, we're going to have open discussion. We want this to be a little bit more interactive, not just a one-way dialogue. And I know Zhikang previously, before our pre-chat, he wanted to throw some spicy questions along the way. So feel free, to interject anytime. Okay, so let's begin, right? I think there's so much talk about AI changing the world. Correct. And then, but then when you strip away the buzzwords, what's actually working right now and what's still painfully overhyped? So I think just a quick introduction. I mean, Zhikang comes from more of I wouldn't say compliance, but IP strategy and management. So we can hear a little bit from his perspective. Pan Yong, he's doing more about public safety and stuff. And then we have Tao, who is breathing and living AI, changing the world with AI today. So I think it would be good to hear from their perspective what is working right now and what is still painfully overhyped. Maybe we can start with Tao.
Oh, yeah. I think it's different than the previous year, 2024. I think this year, because of the model's capability, unlocked some new scenarios, and also just some general agent product like Manus. We've also unlocked the generality for the different use cases. I think for last year, people are only use AI for answer questions, just ask a question, get an answer. But this year, people are starting to use AI to deliver real results. Like for us, a lot of Manus users, right now they are using Manus to generating documents, spreadsheets, slides every day. And just 3 weeks ago, after we released our new version, Manus 1.5, and I can see the data yesterday, more than tens of thousands websites created every day, which means, a lot of small, medium business owners, right now they can just leverage the power of AI to have something that really working for their work. So I think this is something that is already working. It's like you don't just get answers, you get the final results. But what is still not working? I think it's right now, even for answers and deliveries, it's just maybe the work of AI generated after half an hour or 1 hour. But in the real world, sometimes we need the AI to work for a longer time for some very complex tasks, Sometimes it need like hours or days of work, to deliver the final project. But right now, I think the technology still can deliver that, and that's also like one thing we are working on. Like in this morning opening keynote, as I talk for the frontiers of agentic AI, that is one thing we're working on. I think it will be solved in less than maybe 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, actually last week I was using Manus AI to ask why did Bitcoin crash last week? And then it took very long because I think there was a lot of information. Yeah, but that was interesting. Yeah, and then also recently I had to plan a family trip, but I didn't have time, right? So I just asked Manus AI, look through Reddit and everything and help me plan out a itinerary. And wow, it was amazing, yeah. And also we use it to build a PowerPoint deck. So if you haven't tried, please try it. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Maybe we can hear a little bit from Pan Yong as well. What
Okay, a little bit
in
it's
your
about investment in Bitcoin, or you should ask the forward-looking question, right? What's the next trend for Bitcoin?
Can Manus help me predict Bitcoin?
Yeah.
whether it will
So I think that's not the right forum. I'm not allowed to give investment advice. Even that's not valid. So maybe give everyone the context. So I work for Home Team Science and Technology Agency, H3X. We're a government agency. Our mission is to impact public safety and security. So we serve the lives for our foreign colleagues coming to Singapore. If you are able to breeze through our immigration checkpoint, you felt safe in this country, we want to supply those technology to keep you safe and secure in Singapore. So we started our AI movement 2 years ago with the mission to be a AI first organization. What we've done we have a plan to hire 500 engineers for AI, invest about 400 million. I think the numbers could go up over time for AI investment. So that's where we are. But before I go into details of those questions, I just want to give people maybe a macro view of how we see the world is happening. You look at investment of all the big tech company, everybody is investing money to AI. If we do search today, Google is really have AI to power search. Meta is really having AI to power a whole bunch of recommendation. So clearly, people are incorporating AI into their businesses already, judging on big tech. And look at investment globally, investment into data centers, investment into GPUs, all these are actually happening at a very massive scale. So clearly, it's on the forward upward projecting trend. So I think that's a big positive. We are getting there. Now the question is success. How is our implementation successful? I think today is a mixed bag. There are people who say, look, we are not seeing the outcome. There are folks who say, look, we're seeing positive impact. But I think the framing that we all have to look at these issues is this, right? Any new technology, anything that's disruptive, right? Everybody who are here in the audience are old enough to live through the dot-com bubble, right? When recognize that there was 90 companies that failed, but 10% of massively successful business that were created and massive amount of value was generated through the dot-com bubble. I think we're exactly the same way, right? There'll be successes, there'll be failure. So maybe from our perspective, which are I can go on forever, but just highlight a few success stories that we had. For example, number one, in fact, all of you, by default today, you probably don't do Google first. You do ChatGPT first or Gemini first, something else first, right? Unless you don't do it, you're probably not in the right talk, right? Or maybe you should switch. So I think clearly adoption at the individual level, that's really happening in terms of AI. So that's where we see success. The success we have seen also when we put AI solution to our officers or our public servant, for example, to deal with the mundane tasks about generating approval and documents, we are actually seeing a 60% reduction in terms of effort, right? So that means a piece of work that taken maybe 2 months actually reduced by 60%, right? Maybe to 1+ months. And that's with about 70% accuracy of AI generating content. And in fact, we kept it on purpose to be 70%. Why? I want to tell people, look, AI is a tool, it's enabler. You give you 70%, now you need to finish at 30% because you're still accountable for outcome. And we're seeing true success when we have a realistic view of deployment AI. Where we see not very good success where it was overhyped, right? It's like the first date was great and then subsequently you realize it's all downhill, right? After the subsequent date. I'm sure all of you have the same experience and maybe that's only me, right? So example, we look at certain tools and say, look, it's great for generating PowerPoint. We realize the first few slides was good, But if you want to be more creative, we realize it's about the same. Right? We realize some of these efforts to leverage Gen AI has limitation, but that also means there's opportunity for growth for people to continue to impact those areas. So quick one in terms of
Yeah,
where
I'm
we're
seeing
seeing
a
it,
little
yeah.
bit of a team here where, AI is not supposed to replace us, it's more about enabling at this stage, right? Yeah. How about Zikang, coming from an
Alright.
intellectual property point of view?
Yeah, so maybe I'll share a bit of context of where I'm from first. So I'm from Airports International. So we are a subsidiary of the Intellectual Property Office of Singapore. And for myself and my team, what we are very focused on is actually helping enterprises use IP and more broadly intangible assets for growth. So I'm not here as a regulator. It's really about helping businesses see IP as a business asset and how to use that strategically for your growth. So I'll be talking more about from the perspective of IP and business. Okay, so from that side of things, I think in terms of what's overhyped, right? I think quite unfortunately, in terms of the news that you see between AI and IP, a lot of it is about, are the big tech firms ripping off the creators, Anthropic being sued by the publishers, Anthropic being sued by the music owners. Then on the other side of things, you have, they have deep fakes, right? Whether it's images, whether it's videos, whether it's songs. A lot of that news actually is quite negative and quite depressing. But that's not everything AI is, right? So I think like Zhang Tao mentioned or like Peng mentioned, there's so many use cases of AI, right? There's medical screening, there's computer vision that's used in autonomous vehicles, can help you book air tickets if you want to, right? For example, there's so many users that actually doesn't involve all these different issues. So I think there's probably a bit of noise if you just read the news, not very critically, about around AI risks and infringement and rights. But actually, in the enterprise sense, in the use cases, business use cases of AI, actually I think those are a bit more academic, might be intellectually interesting, but in terms of enterprise risk, actually might not be that big of a thing. But there are probably other risk areas that you want to watch out for, even opportunity areas you want to watch out for that we can discuss later in this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I think just first segment is just to have you a little, dive into the perspective on the macro level. So right now we're gonna have individual questions just to dive a little deeper into their area of expertise. So for Tao, you mentioned a few times in your keynote speeches, especially earlier, about the barrier to adoption of AI, especially Gen AI. People are focused more on the risks instead of the benefits, right? So would you mind sharing more about how do you come to this observation?
Oh yeah. Like for this morning, I talk about like to adapt AI in your industry or in your company. The most important thing is about the mindset, because a lot of people they are talking about replace human with AI. I think that's the wrong way to do that, because it's like we have like so many existing workflow that is designed for humans, and if you want to like move all these existing workflow to AI, first thing it's hard. Second thing, AI is still at its early stage. And right now, the boundary, the limitation of the current AI technology still can't, support that to adapt to all existing workflows. So if you are trying to replace existing workflows to all go to AI, the first thing come to your mind is how can I control the risk? Because it may break all your existing workflow. So the first thing come to your mind is about the risk, it's not about the benefits. So after talk to like some of my friends who are like industry leaders and also founders in their companies, what I found out that most of them failed at adapting AI, but a few of them succeed at adapting AI. And when you're looking at their use cases, it's always about to enhance their already top performance with AI and amplify this top performers. And their performance can be like 10 times or maybe sometimes 100 times better. So that is like how I come up with this idea. And also like, inside our company, like we are kind of like an AI native company because, from day one we build AI products. Right now we have like 2 AI products, Monica and Manus. So I think we are an AI native company already. And inside our company, we are training like every employee that for every task, even how to do that, or even you will do it manually by yourself. But first of all, just a job that task to any AI, to Manus, to ChatGPT, whatever AI tools you are using. Because what we found out through that process is sometimes for some tasks that you've already have some knowledge or you know how to do. But if you ask AI first, it always gives you some new perspectives. It always gives you some new inspirations. And it's very useful for our work, you know. And for me, right now, it's already a habit that every time I come up with some new ideas or I have some conversations with our partners, I will give all the transcripts, all the ideas to Manus, and then Manus to figure out like what opportunities we have in this partnership or in this opportunity, what we can do. And sometimes, you know, even before I ask, Manus already built some prototype for me and for our partners just after the conversation. And a lot of partners will be amazed by that and makes the partnership like much easier to go forward. So I think that's really, this is not really about replacing human. It's about how to amplify a single person's boundary. Yeah, so that's my idea, yeah.
What was one thing that surprised you recently?
One thing surprised me. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a very interesting one. Because it's like last week, we started to launch a campaign to ask Manus users to submit their best practice to us. Because we want to know what users are using that. So, you know, normally when you want to develop a system like that, to let the user to upload their best practice use case, leave their contact information, and then we need to build another dashboard for our employees to review them. And if some of them will think it's good, we will just give some free credits to them. So, you know, to build a system like this, you need a back-end engineer, you need a front engineer, sometimes you need a product manager, right? And it may take maybe 1 week. And if you want to outsourcing this kind of project to another team, it may cost you, I don't know, maybe like 20,000 Singapore dollars? Yeah, maybe. But you know, our employee just use Manus to build the whole system. And the system is right now in production environment. Like if you go to Manus now, and if you want to submit your best practice, you will use that system generated by Manus itself. And totally, the whole project is developed under half an hour with someone who is not an engineer, just describe his own needs. It's totally amazed us. Even being an AI native company, we can't expect that something like this can be done today. Yeah.
Right. It sounds like more of I'm hearing like this is more of a system and a design problem more than a technical problem. Yeah. So it's interesting, like to, you know, from this we go into Panyong, right, where, you know, in public safety, AI is not just about efficiency, right? You are building trust within like a distressed environment. So my question to you is, you know, I think for public safety, it's a lot about helping citizens go back into normalcy after an incident happened, right? So how do you design a workflow with AI that helps the public have trust in the system? Yeah, because I think we are so used to, you know, for example, on the streets, if you get robbed, you meet a police officer, you want to see them in person, you feel safe, right? So I'm just wondering, for you, how do you use AI to incorporate into public safety?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe I think the first framing, before I get into the technology answer, is I think trust with the public is built outside of technology. Your actions, your behavior, the way you respond to the needs of the public, to the citizen, that is the real benchmark of how we build that trust. And the trust have to be earned. Action we take is we have to be quite measured in terms of action we take and how we respond to those. I think that's a baseline. But there's a broader question of the moment we incorporate AI into our solution, how do we ensure it's safe and secure? But the interesting thing to note is we've been using AI for the longest of time, right? The Gen AI captured our imagination 2 years ago, but for in many cases, whether things around computer vision or your biometric you're coming through your ICA, all these are actually AI technology. They could be deterministic or AI technology, maybe based on some CNN, you are familiar with it. Definitely not generative, not transformer model, but we've been using it all this while, right? So that's really one aspect. I think for this particular forum is about Gen AI. How do you build trust with Gen AI? So I think our first concern is really, if AI is the brain that helps you make those decisions, what kind of education does the AI model has? Now, the real hard question is, do we trust a model that's trained on data? We are not sure what's involved, right? What kind of guardrails have other people built on top of those guardrails? So we have put in the effort to actually train our own large language model. So we are investing and training our own large language model based on our own data set, based on data that we can trust. Because if your foundational data is off, right? If, for example, a very basic thing that we showcase, look, in Singapore, for the foreigners coming, I'm pretty sure you know about it in the flight, we are hard on drugs, right? Marijuana is absolute no-no in Singapore, but the value systems in other countries are different. Not that we're better, but that's the way the leaders have chose to operate and ensure this country is safe and secure. We make those hard decisions and understand the consequence of it. Now, we use a model that is not trained with the same principle, the same values, the same knowledge, it will give us a very different response. So we are investing to ensure we will train AI model, fine-tune AI model, and build on top guardrails and ensure AI safe, secure. Are we only using our own large language model? The answer is no. We work with open source, open weights models outside. And the question is, how do you build insight against those models at the inference layer? That means when you call the AI model, we are in control of our layer and determine maybe is there AI safety incorporated? Are there potential, for example, prompt injection attack against the model? I think these are pieces we have to put in place and give our stakeholder assurance. We are not just chasing after technology, but we ensure that our technology is aligned with the values, the missions of what we want to do as an organization. I think it must be the first principle, right? AI can't be the solution for every single problem, and we use it. We start from the first principle of make sure we do the right thing at the onset. Yeah.
Actually, I'm curious also, like, do we really need Gen AI in public safety?
The answer is absolutely yes. I give you real numbers, right? We are aging population, right? I'm sure the young people in the audience here say, look, how many want to be a uniform officer, right? For the police, for the civil defense, to run into the fire and stuff like that, right? Not many, right? We are aging population. Many young people may not be on uniform service, and we want to have as many of our citizens working in the private sector because they help to boost the economy. Now, there still could be fire. Fire is not going away. But if we have embodied AI into robots, use an agentic example, real agentic example. If we have cameras that can detect fire breaking out, right, based on AI, and the AI agent will do an assessment that fire is breaking out, the agent will connect to a dispatch agent to determine what kind of resources we dispatch what's the area, and get human into loop to make an action to say, let's go dispatch. And when the dispatcher go out into the site, AI will able to assess the situation of fire and embody AI on the robots to go into the environment, right, and save life without impacting the life of our civil defense officer. Now that's super valuable, and that's why we are going after, right? We're building an AI model, building a computer vision model that understands landscape, and building embodied AI models that's able to support all this mission. So side note, right? This year there's an earthquake in Myanmar, right? Earthquake in Myanmar. If you read the news, we actually sent cockroaches out to those sites. What happened was we discovered a particular breed of cockroaches from Africa. We can put sensors on those cockroaches, send it out, right? They are very small. They can determine whether are there people trapped in the debris and save life, right? And the cost of the cockroach is quite low, right? And we are investing on those technology. We did not know there was a use 2 years ago, but when earthquake happened, we can deploy those technology. And that's how we are seeing the generative AI work. So that's at the broad public safety space. In the other space, we are seeing AI in many use cases. Example, where officers who were not, some of you are not creative by design, you're engineers, you come a very bad design, but AI can make you creative, right? We're seeing AI can help officers create posters. I'm into the design thinking. They can do storyboarding with AI. It's super powerful. So there are really impactful areas that can deploy AI, right? Many areas, yeah.
So if I put Pan Yong and Tao in the same room today, right now, and you have to collaborate on a project, what would that be? Using Gen AI, agentic.
I'm sorry, I've not seen the product, so I can't comment. But I think the agentic framework is real, so that's super important. We do definitely want to collaborate with any partners who have solutions to put on table. And I think the world is such that we're going to see organizations adopting multiple agentic framework. It won't be one, and it's about many agentic framework and how we connect different agentic framework together. I think that'll be a very real deployment in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for us it's like we are building the general agentic core architecture. So for us, to collaborate with a new partner is always about to find out what's their data source, what their actions or tools can expose to us. Then our agent can learn, like these are kind of some operations and actions we can perform for each scenarios. So like whenever we're working with a new partner, we're always thinking about like what tools they have, what actions we can perform in their scenarios. So that's how things work, yeah.
Right. So Zikang, now I put you as a consultant into this picture, right? How would you protect their IP and intellectual and whatever that is?
Actually, so that's the big question, right? I just quote Mark Cuban, okay? So he posted this on X earlier this year. So something about AI is king, and it's no longer about filing a lot of patents. I'm not sure whether Manus AI has patents. Maybe you do. I'm not sure whether the patents cover the real secret sauce of what you have. I think it's another discussion. But now it's no longer either you publish or perish. It's you publish, you perish, right? Because actually for AI inventions, a lot of what's inside or how you make that AI, right? Maybe it's about proprietary data sets, and that gives you certain outcomes that you want, whether it's trust, whether it's transparency. Maybe it's about the entire architecture that you built based on open source software model, right? How do you protect that? What's the inventiveness inside that? So I think there is no clear-cut answer to this question. And patents might not be the correct answer to protect, because patents is always one exchange. I disclose to the entire world how I make this invention, how you can replicate this invention for 20 years of monopoly. Right? After the 20 years, you can take the information, you can do whatever you want of it essentially. Within that time, you can learn how do I make it, and then maybe you can do something better, maybe you can take a license or whatever. So patents, there's an exchange for a monopoly for a public disclosure. But if the things that you're doing are valuable because they are secret, right? Maybe the weights in the model, right? Maybe the company themselves don't even know. But
That's right.
These things are things that how do you protect it? It's really looking across your business and technology, then deciding between trade secrets, patents, know-how, or even other business advantages that they have. So this one is really a discussion around what you are using the tech for, how is that tech built with the differentiators. So unfortunately, there's no clear answer, and that's
Right.
something to be discussed with
Maybe just a follow-up question. For two big organizations like them, and they're going to a partnership, how would you advise them to not sue each other?
I think number one, so this...
In this situation, it's very hard, right? It's not equal.
So I want to hear from his expertise. Like, how would he advise the both of you?
I think for this one, it's not so much an IT question, it's a business question. So actually, we see a lot of IP disputes arising from lack of clarity on the business, right? So when they first enter in a partnership, I think both are very clear about what they want out of the partnership, right? Whether maybe HDX just wants to be a user, Manus wants to own all the improvements that they do, for example. Manus maybe is happy for customized things to be owned by HDX, for example. Actually, it's this clarity of what you need from the collaboration, outcomes that you want, what rights to the things that are invented or made during the collaboration. And if those things are discussed up front and settled up front, and of course there'll be some IP terms, but those become more of technical details in a way. But once you know your positions and going into it, actually that resolves a lot of the potential for dispute downstream.
Yeah.
Maybe add on to that few angles. First angle for us to think about is for those who are familiar with the AI space, there's almost a new model coming out every other week, right? You go Hugging Face, there's new stuff. You ask me for my opinion. End of this day, all these things going to plateau, right? It's going to be about the same. It's quite for the simple fact. Everybody's going to train about the same set of data. And if you start to generate syntactic data using AI, then the data has less and less value. The value is now created with the private data. I think you kind of mentioned that, allude to that just now. I think there are a lot of values for organizations to think about how can data, and we find the hardest work to do is to acquire high quality data for training. That's the hardest work we have to do. Building models, fine, you have a deep engineering skill set, you can do it quite well. Getting data is quite hard. So I think there's a lot of value will be generated among a lot of private data. When I meet a key executive from our partners all over the world, and my first question to ask them is, look, you've been doing this work for example, last week there's a cybersecurity week. You've been doing work in examining threat data all over the world. The data is super valuable. Can I buy your data for training and build models on it? And the implication, what does it mean from an IP perspective? Likewise, for some company that has been doing workforce automation, right? You have really built intelligence about fault repairs and a whole bunch of other stuff. Can I acquire data? I think the data, private health data, which is the much is at the bottom of the iceberg, right? So the public, I think the internet data is probably just at the tip. There's a very deep private data out in the market. I think this will become super valuable moving forward as everybody plateau in the training of models. So I think that's a very valuable stuff, right? Like I would love a lot of computer vision data, right, about Singapore landscape that we can train our robots, right, to navigate our urban environment. Yeah.
Right. I think this is a good segue into Zhikang's expertise, right? Data and IP management and stuff. So in today's world, there's so much data going on, right? And I think a lot of startups. So the difference between like startups and corporate, I guess startups is just, all right, let's just go, and then we'll deal with it when the problem comes, right? But then the corporate is like, okay, no, let's not go. Let's protect us before we go. So there's a lot of conflict. There's different ways of managing it. So in your day to day, would you like to share a bit more about what are some of the pitfalls that businesses should watch out for, and then how can all this protection actually help with innovation?
So, so I think on the data side of things, if you're talking about proprietary data sets, I think you're pretty safe, right? You're sort of licensed it, you've gotten it in. Of course, if you're generating synthetic data, you generate new data, then ownership issue comes in. If you're working with a public agency, now depending on the interest, right? Sometimes they are really interested in the data, sometimes actually they just want the end product, right? So the kind of negotiations then will depend on the interest of each party. But I think in terms of the pitfalls, I think one thing, I would probably go back to the protection part, especially the IP rights management part. Right, so today actually it's maybe a real example. We had a robotics company that was using some AI tools for the computer vision for some decision makings for the robots. Right, so the software, the base software wasn't theirs. Right, they were working with that company to essentially enhance or customize parts of that software for their use in the robots. Right, so those improvements, right, were, if you leave it to the default positions, if your contract doesn't specify it, for example, that can become quite murky. And in business, what you don't want is uncertainty. Right, you don't want to have a successful product, a successful R&D, go all the way to the end, launch something to realize don't know who owns those extra rights. You need to pay royalties to the company that did some of the research work. So actually, I think part of that comes in terms of then looking at IP rights management between both parties. How do you split the ownership in a way that makes sense for both? Right, for the software company, maybe I'd say, I don't care about your custom application. There are things that are clever that I might want to take ownership of, and then those I will split it, I'll take it. But for the robotic company, I just want the final application. I want it to be safe. I want the results to be accurate. I take those customizations that are directly applied to my hardware, for example. That's one way to do it. The other way that to look at it then is again about your entire protection strategy. It's not just about registrations also. If really what is giving you the differentiator is a proprietary data set that nobody can get their hands on, if that's good enough, no, that's good enough, right? So because for startups, you have to manage cost and benefit, right? If the cost of registration makes no sense in terms of your protection and what it gives you, then that's a decision to be made.
Okay. So the next question is for all. I'm also curious, what are the biggest misconceptions about Gen AI in your specific industry or area of expertise? Maybe, Tao, you want to go first?
Okay. The biggest
biggest misconception about Gen AI.
I think maybe the biggest misconception is like to treat AI as a real human. It's like, whenever we have like some new model or new product, people will just use some very tricky questions, to test the model and to prove that we are smart. We are still smarter
Like what
than
questions?
AI. Yeah, like normally, like there's some quiz, some very tricky questions even for humans, and also maybe some very deep vertical challenges, like even for a human scientist can't solve. I think maybe that's the biggest misconception because we are still like treating AI just as human, and we want to test it. Like, okay, if you can solve the things I can solve, if you can't, I'm still better than you. But I don't think that's like a healthy or good mindset when you co-working with AI. You should treat it as a new beings, not a new human being. It's like a new things, a new species, and it won't like compete with you at every vertical, every level, but they are better at some certain things, and you should learn like how to co-work with it, other than just to prove, like I'm still better than you. That is, for me, I think that may be the biggest misconception, because like for the past whole 3 years, for me, 2 years ago, just maybe 5 months after ChatGPT released, I've already been convinced that at that time it's ChatGPT 3.5 is already smarter than all of us. But people are still don't believe that because they think, okay, I throw some questions to ChatGPT and it can't answer, and they will think, oh, it proves we are still better than they. But I think the whole thing is not like that, because the AI's power is not just being good at answering questions. It can benefit us from many angles. But if you only use these questions to test the model's capability, you won't see the whole picture. Yeah, so I think that's the misconception. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of misconception about AI today. So I'm a glass half full person, but I'll highlight a few things. One, I think it shouldn't be AI versus us. I think quite important. Just like today, we don't say, hey, you know what, me versus my computer. It doesn't do that, right? Yeah. So I think that's quite important. And the fact of the matter, if you think a bit deeper, right? Before Gen AI become a thing, we are all interacting with AI. I'm sorry, the videos that's sent to you from TikTok, from Facebook, from your YouTube video, from Instagram, it's all from AI. You are really interacting with AI. So the work is in place, just like maybe you don't feel it as silly. So I think the fact of the matter is really big in. So I think that's one misconception. It's not us versus them. It's really a tool like a computer, how we use it better. The other misconception to think about really for all one thing quite hard, and maybe some of you are entrepreneurs out there. I think the mode of interface where ChatGPT has started may not be the only mode. I kind of don't like the current one. I thought the AI should be able to return me a button if I need to click a button, return me different. There's an opportunity to build much more dynamic user interfaces and user experience with AI. Is the phone the right form factor? Is the current ChatGPT which text-based interface the right form factor? I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily the right one. It does mean opportunities. I think there's lots of opportunity for many of you who maybe have some entrepreneur blood out there to think about what's the next form factor AI. Don't be locked in with the current form factor. So I think I just want to highlight two among many misconceptions of AI. Yeah.
Anything specific to your workplace or in the HTX environment?
I think in HTX we are more pragmatic. We started off. We are not, but we say we are AI first. We're actually very. We do have a program to execute. I don't think we are necessarily the right model for everyone, but let me share a model in case you are trying to implement an AI program. We are very deliberate to make sure we hire the right workforce, invest in infrastructure. In fact, one of the first things we set up was actually an AI governance team. Right? What the governance team do is really look at the individual use cases and determine can AI impact and have it impact that particular workflow. So very clear the value AI must, any technology, not just AI, must able to create value. And you must know what's the value. Rather business is the same thing, right? You can build a fancy product but not creating value, what's the point? So we're very clear about the value and very clear that there's governance process in place on the right use of AI, right? In terms of the prompts, the guardrails and things like that. We want to make sure that people are equipped and trained within the organization. People know how to use AI, they're excited about use it, but there's enough tooling and support provided that people can apply AI properly. I think that's kind of the way we approach it. So people don't get into this thing, wow, okay, AI is going to solve every single problem, but neither to the extreme and say, look, it's just a fanciful tech thing, don't get me involved. I think we achieved quite a measure of success in terms of deployment because we started a program that look at things quite holistically. I'm not sure if every organization is able to invest in it, but we're quite clear we want to be an AI first organization and therefore invest the right structure, resources to make sure it works. Yeah.
Sounds like with all this AI, it's still very human first before AI, right? Yeah. But Zikang,
Yeah, so maybe I'll share one misconception and one opportunity. So maybe just one misconception first on this point about AI really not replacing humans. So I think actually not so much, not in the past few months, but I think earlier this year or maybe even last year, quite a lot of news around, can AI be an inventor? Can AI be named in the pattern as the inventor, right? But actually, like Zhang Tao mentioned, Pan Yong mentioned, I don't think we're at the stage where AIs are ready to invent. They are helpful in a lot of things. Can it be an inventor? Right now, probably not. Maybe when managed AI gets to a real, artificial general intelligence, or we get to like artificial super intelligence, for example, maybe at that point you can think about some of these issues. But for now, actually, AI is a tool, still a very powerful tool, right? But it's still a tool to aid humans, and the invention question isn't quite a pressing one for enterprises. I think it's again academically interesting. Enterprises-wise, I think not so important. But I want to focus maybe more about the opportunity. We've talked about AI creating value, right? And when you take the AI and IP perspective together, actually that can also help transform a business model if you're looking at something like that. So the example I have is maybe you've been in the manufacturing space for the longest time. Manufacturing, don't want to say what good, a certain number of goods, right? You're known to be a good manufacturer. You have good QC. And you have accumulated a lot of data over time just from your manufacturing processes, right? If now you're trying to improve your own systems, for example, in a way, I don't want to say replace humans, but say computer vision to detect defects, for example, to do your QC processes. And once you have the entire system in place, and that maybe works with less humans or works very well, you can think about actually pivoting a business model, because now you're not just a manufacturer, you are also an owner of a tech system that can help run a manufacturing facility, right? So if you think about like a franchising analogy, for example, today rather than me investing a lot of capex to build new factories to produce additional pieces of goods for our customers, can I actually go for a lower capex model? Maybe I find existing factories, I retrofit them with my technology, they become my manufacturers. I might even want to charge them a service cost for running the manufacturing facilities for them, right? And then I can still produce my goods, but in the way I've used this new entire service line that's a lot less capex intensive. I have a new revenue model based on the data I get, based on the technology that I built, and of course for that you need good IP protection to be able to do that sort of business transformation. But there is value, when you look at IP, it's not just about protection, but also the value creation part, and I think AI gives you a lot of value creation opportunities, and then when you take that with IP protection, well, I think that's really look at some real transformation involved.
Right. Thank you, Zikang. I think we have been talking a lot about building, breaking boundaries. So maybe let's take a step back, right? Maybe Tao and Pan Yong can share a case study where, or something that happened on when do you experiment further with AI, and then at what point do you like stop and say, okay, this is too much? Is there a case that happened before? Love to hear that. Yeah.
It's too much. Maybe we can go first. Let me just think about it. Okay, yeah.
I think there's many cases, but for example, speech. We did a fair bit of work. So ideally, if you want to make a call to our call centers, right, 995 or 999, and if AI can help to do a lot of work, can make sure we can deal with the response. We recognize there's a lot of challenges. The challenges will be around, for example, we may train a very good model, but you have to linguistically able to speak to enunciate accurately. So I think this is some challenge we face. There's also background noise. When public call us, when the individual in distress, right, and your speech to text model will not work very well. So that's where sometimes AI will fail. But if we kind of look at the problem and think about differently, right, maybe the solution is not doing a speech to text for the person calling in. Maybe you can do a speech chat by the operator. Operator, you just call, repeat. You call sir, you're in MBS. Okay, where are you from, right? So maybe that's better. So I think that's really where human ingenuity is still needed, right? As you implement AI solution. And it's always about adapting your processes and reading and be imaginative. And maybe AI will always not be 100%, but how can we be smart about solving some of these problems? Yeah.
Right. Pan Yong, is there any project that you have killed recently because it has, gone too far over?
I think hard to say because you depress the people who are involved in the project. But I can say we're quite clear when the project is not working. I think the key is how do we incrementally. And I'm a chief innovation officer, right? The approach we take for all innovation, because our responsibility is to safeguard public funds, right? It's not my money or your money, taxpayers' money, right? We'll make sure that we incrementally invest in the piece of technology. The first X amount should help us discover what works, what doesn't work. And when discover it doesn't work, it's fantastic because they tell us, they let the other project know this is the path we should not take. I think that's the approach we should take for all investment, whether it's AI or not AI. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Tao?
Yeah, I think because we are very aggressive about adopting AI in our company, so most of them are working. Yeah, but there's one thing we are still stick to let human do this work is about writing blogs and writing our official website. Because we try to use AI to write these articles and write these tagline sections on our official website, but eventually we found out because this thing is always about the value, always about the taste, and we think it's still better for human to maintain the taste. It's about what's the idea, what's the concept you want to tell to the world, and right now we think the AI still can get the feeling of our taste. But who knows? Maybe next year we can. But now we still keep to use human for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, everyone here uses LinkedIn, right? I'm sure you have received and seen a lot of robots generated comments, and you just, I don't know, I just want to flag and report them all the time. Yeah, but anyway, do we have time for one last question? Okay. Personally, I'm very interested in this question. Tao, you mentioned a lot of time about with Gen AI or AI in general, right? We have saved a lot of time because it has increased productivity. Yeah. So it enhances our human life and etc. But I'm just wondering, is that really a promise or the pitfall of the standards are getting higher and higher, the bar is getting higher and higher? It's like there's no end to it. We're going to be chasing more and more. So personally, I don't know. I feel like sometimes. So recently, I've met a founder who wants to build a bot, like a human bot to clone myself, right? Yeah. So I can go to a dating app and the bot will talk to the bot, and then they will sort of curate. Okay, is this person worth my time to talk to? And I'm like, this. Am I really living? Right? Am I really living for productivity optimization, or am I living to experience life? Right. So this is a question for everyone here. I just want to wrap things up in a more light-hearted way. Yeah. So maybe Zikang, what's your thought on that? Productivity optimization.
I think that's quite a broad question. I think we quite a long way to go. To the productivity, of course, I think we're all still finding use cases on how we to best use AI, and it's developing so quickly. But I guess from the IP's perspective, in a way, we are still responsible for the outputs that we do. We've seen some cases, and I've personally experienced it, where we still get hallucinations sometimes from the research. And there's been cases in Singapore and overseas as well about hallucinations. So eventually, I think that can improve productivity a lot, but I think we just have to be very careful around the use of the final output and being responsible for the final output.
Pan Yong, what's your take?
I think the important thing for organizations implementing AI, don't talk about productivity. We're very clear when we push our AI movement, we use two things, right? One, enhance mission outcome. That's important, right? We have a job to do. Our job is to safeguard public safety and security. We get it done, right? Mission outcome should be the focus, not about productivity. Secondly, employee experience. Technology must be human-centric. How do we enhance employee experience so they can be best of themselves coming to work? And that's really where we want to focus people on the delivery of AI. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing very interesting during our user interviews is that actually what we found out, the most powerful Manus user, after they use Manus, they work more hours, than before. And that's really like counter your instinct, because people just think, okay, the productivity enhanced, then I should have more time to rest, right? But actually, the most powerful Manus users, they work much more after they use Manus. Why? Because before Manus, they will have some new ideas, or they're very creativity people, and they're self-driven people. And before Manus, if they have some new idea, but they don't have time to develop that idea, then maybe after 3 or 7 days, that idea just disappear. But right now, every time when they have some new ideas, they drop it to Manus. After maybe like 15 minutes, they will get a working prototype. They start to think, okay, maybe this is something serious I should work on. So I think it's never about like enhance the productivity. It's always about to like amplify the human's creativity. Yeah. So to make these self-driven people can achieve much more. Yeah.
Yeah, food for thought for everyone. Thank you all. I think Zikang has a shout out.
Yes, so for the audience here, actually, if you have any questions around IP management, and it's not just a protection, not just registration, because IP is also about strategy, it's about commercialization, it's about monetization, it's about valuations, it's about tax as well. There's this whole range of different issues that you can talk about. I'm not an expert in all of them, it's quite a short topic, it's quite a short panel discussion today. But on Friday at Switch, so this is at level 3, Kasia Junior Ballroom, we have an event called Connect the IP Grow. We have gathered about 27 or 29, I can't remember, IP service providers across the entire spectrum of all the IP, of 20 different IP service areas actually. So whether you're launching a new product, whether expanding overseas, if you want to get some consultations on IP management, IP strategy, there are 29 different firms. So these are not just law firms, some of them are tax firms, some of them are management consultancies, for example. So it's really different types of companies or advice that you can get. Just be there on the Friday morning. So this happens before the Slingshot Grand Finals, if anyone's attending. And you can just walk in and have a chat with any of them to get the consultation or the free advice that you need.
All right, thank you, speakers. Right now, let's welcome our Deputy Principal from Ngee Ann Poly, Mr. Ma Weibing, to give out a small token of appreciation. Thank you, speakers. And thank you all for listening today.